All right, everyone. You already know who it is, but in case you forgot, I don't mind giving you a slight reminder. It's your best friend, your good Judy, your next door neighbor, your niece, your nephew, your great auntie, your gunkle. It is Norman J. Liverpool the fourth, and I am so happy that you have joined me on this special edition of Coaching and Cocktails at a new day and time for this time only because I am so excited about this special guest. And he is on the other side of the country. And, you know, we do what we do to make it work. So I am so excited to have Jimmy Allen today on the show. Jimmy is a love and relationship coach. He helps courageous and ambitious men overcome issues with their confidence, trust, and vulnerability, so they can create big love, owning their worth while achieving their life's purpose without shutting down and spiraling into deep depression. So I don't know about you, but I mean, he was kind of calling me out in that, in that intro. Some of that stuff is very me. And that's why I'm so excited to have him on the show today. So if you are watching, go ahead and throw up some hearts. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and do #replay. And if you have any comments for me or Jimmy, go ahead and load those up in the comments. Really quickly, before we get into it, along the bottom of the page, you'll see the banner scrolling. I invite you to go check out book.overthetopliving.com. That is where you will get on the pre-sale list for my book, which will be available to the public on April 11th, but it's coming out on the 21st. So make sure that you get on the list so that you know what's going on. All right, everyone. So without further ado, please welcome my special guest, love and relationship coach, Jimmy Allen.
Ooh.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, Norman J. Liverpool the fourth.
That's right, honey. Well, listen, I know that I read your bio, but take this opportunity and talk to our viewers. Let them know who you are and all that good stuff.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jimmy Allen. I'm a love and relationship coach. I do help ambitious men and women too, really who are struggling with the lack of confidence, the lack of trust, the lack of just really owning their worth and not feeling unworthy, unseen, and invisible in relationships. And we break those patterns. We break them in half, and then we get you into action, and we reprogram and we wire you, and so you can start attracting the love you want, so you can love big, and so that you are deeply connected to your purpose. So it wakes you up every single day, and you're living your purpose.
I love that. And one of the things I wanted to point out is in our space, what I find fascinating about the coaching space in general is I was a little nervous when I came into it because I was like, well, there's so many other coaches that talk about confidence, right? And deal with the other thing. But I'm so excited that we have found an intersectionality between what you do and what I do to really add some value to folks' lives today. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
So let's just jump right in. The title of today's show is Confidently Single. And and the reason why we collaborated on this event, y'all, is because I want y'all to know that no matter where you are in life's journey, you can be that confident person. It's not tied to your relationship status. So what is something, Jimmy, or how does our confidence and our relationship status, why is that so attached sometimes?
A lot of it generally depends on how you were raised. And when you were raised and when you're growing up, we form these things that's called attachments. And so depending on the type of attachment, there's like healthy attachment, there is unhealthy attachment, and I forgot the one in the middle. But when we start to form these attachments, then we start to say, well, that's how my daddy was, or that's how my mom was. And so, well, that's how they told me I should be. And so then we start showing up that way because somebody else told us to. Especially as kids, we start to do things for approval, to be seen. So we like unconsciously, I mean, you're a kid, so you start to build these patterns and muscles of how to win and get approval for love, and our confidence sometimes is built on these unconscious patterns and beliefs and behavior based off of these childhood things. So, in relationships, sometimes, depending on the person, when we get rewarded for good behavior in a relationship, that we start to do things for that approval, then it starts to shape how we become and observe, and how we move, and what colors I view in relationships. So a lot of the times our confidence sometimes unknowingly is dependent on someone else's behavior.
And to me, like when I just think about that, and even for me, thinking about my own experience, looking back on that, like that is so dangerous. And like how was what I feel about myself attached to someone outside of myself, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it freaks me out. Like when I actually sat and thought about it, I'm like, I literally put my worth and value attached to this person. And then when you're not with that person anymore, it's like, what do you do? Like, who am I? What do you do? And that's if you initiated the breakup or not. Like,
Right.
attach yourself to that person. It's like, well, who am I now?
Right. It's also too, a lot of it has to do with language. Language has a huge part in what shapes us in our attachment to. So you'll hear a lot of people say, "You complete me," which is a dangerous thing, because if that person dies, God forbid, or break up with you, now without that person, I feel incomplete.
Right.
Or what is the other one? I just sort of lost it. It's "You complete me," or and I had a big wake up call for my second relationship when he said, "I don't want you. I don't need you. I want you." And I had no idea what that meant.
Mhm.
And so what basically means is, I don't need you to fulfill anything over here with me. I want to be with you for just who you are. And you don't have to change. You don't have to shape. There's nothing wrong with you. I want to be with you because of you. And I don't need you because I'm good over here. And that's another thing, but people get caught up in when they say, well, I need you. And that means that I need you to be something for me that I'm not with myself.
Oh,
I don't have that within me. So I need you to fulfill this thing in me that I'm lacking. So a lot of the times when we start to look at this language, when Norman comes back, this language is very, very detrimental to our psyche. So it's like, really, I help my clients really look at the language that they are saying to themselves, because language really informs our neuro linguistic pathways in our brain, and then it becomes in our subconscious mind. And then now we're acting and behaving in ways that we have no idea why we act this way.
right. So I just got a question to my email, and it says, what do you do when you've done personal development and your partner hasn't? What's really interesting, what's interesting about this particular question, and this is coming from Joe from Indiana. Thank you, Joe. Um, I went through that,
Mhm.
and I'm curious to hear what your take on it, and I'm going to share my experience. But what do you do when you've done work and done the personal development to improve, to grow, to become who you know you're meant to be, and your partner hasn't?
This question comes up a lot. And to be very frank, sometimes when you have a partner who is doing the work, you tend to outgrow that person. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Even with the woman who I train with, she owned up to the fact that, and this is the person who's doing the work has more language, has more training, so they can resolve the relationship. But you, who is doing all the work, you can't force that on other people. Sometimes the person who's doing all the work, now they sort of operate in a place of like, and not intentionally sometimes, that I'm better than you. Then you should be doing this. You should be like doing this work. You should be doing this work to be better in our relationship. And that's very dangerous, going back to linguistic programming, that language, when you start doing all the training, because now you have like I call it the sixth sense, because you can see things, you can hear things differently in your partner. So sometimes you have to learn to give that up. And there's a tough question you have to ask yourself. Can I be with this person just the way they are and just the way they're not? And if you can't say yes, then there's a conversation you need to answer or have with your partner, because this is not working. Because otherwise, if personal development is a value to you, then you're going to always outgrow that person, and it's not going to work. But if you can be with your training or your studies or whatever, and not force it on them, and learn how to communicate in a way, because a lot of the time the person with the training has to relearn how to listen to their partner, how to talk to their partner, sort of slowly train their partner, because you become better at knowing how to say what you want, say what you need.
Right.
Can you meet these needs? You have to start saying what you want, because most of the time people with the training, because I was this way, you have this expectation to fulfill these roles or these things or do what you're doing, and you haven't really communicated that to them. And also you have to communicate your development, because when you develop this language with this language within you, that also becomes a problem, because now you're on two different ways of speaking, and that can cause a lot of conflict.
And it's so interesting. You literally described my second marriage. No, and honestly and truly, and I speak on it freely. My ex and I, we chat and talk, and one of the things that we did, which I found really interesting, I'd never done before, is when we decided to split up, I took him to dinner and I said, this is going to be kind of like an exit interview. And no, truly. And I wrote an article about it on LinkedIn, because I really wanted to understand what our relationship was like from his perspective. And essentially what had happened is I went through this huge transformation, like literally a huge transformation right before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
It literally came out of nowhere, where I changed the way that I ate. I was, getting healthy. I was getting fit. I was reading books. I was, doing all of this personal development. And it kind of got to the point where it was like, well, I get it. Why don't you get it?
You become entitled because you have this
right.
new this
right,
thing.
Because I'm this Norman. and I realized that when we sat down and had that dinner, and he went through what our relationship was like for him, it opened my eyes to like exactly what you're saying, is because I was going through this huge shift in my life. I automatically expected that you need to shift with me. And then what happened was we began to resent each other, because we're here busy developing myself and not my marriage. And I'm over here, doing all this personal development, again, using language that someone who is not in that space could understand. So it almost came off condescending, and it really drove us apart, because I'm over here living my best life, and that best life didn't really include him. because my expectations of him they didn't match. And
Right.
it was about that. What you're talking about is having that conversation. Now we've since had that conversation after our divorce, and it's like, dang, if we had done this, that probably would have made sense. But what you hit the nail on the head, especially as it relates to the language.
And I'll give you an example, like in my own life, like with my mother. So when I started doing all this work, I didn't know the language was so different. And I realized in my process, in my development, that it was my view of her that was being triggered with that. So I couldn't explain that to her. She didn't have the language and all that business. I was like, okay, well, I have the training. How can I change my view of my mother? Because you can easily get rid of a partner and you can get rid of your mother, but this is my birth mother. How can I change my view of her? Because she's not going to change. She's going to be who she is, no matter how she is. And if I have to accept who she is and who she's not going to be, can I do that? If my commitment to love or to family is to have love, grace, and ease, if that's my commitment to this relationship, then how am I going to start showing up that way for her? It's not her responsibility, it's my responsibility. So how can I start to become more responsible of how I react? How can I control my reactions to her? And how can I stop having these expectations of this person to show up in a way she does not know how to show up as? So it was like, okay, how am I going to be loving today with her? How am I going to show grace? Hey, Linda. Show
We were
grace.
just talking about you.
Come on, Jimmy. How am I going to bring grace to this relationship today? And if my mother and this was the toughest part, owning up to my mistakes, owning up to how I'm making her react. And saying, I remember having this conversation with her, and it was hard. I was just taking a transformational course, and I said to her, I'm taking this course, and I think that I've been manipulating you in conversation. And she said, yes, you have. And that woke me up of oh, I'm showing up in her life as controlling, as her life trying to manipulate her, telling her what to do. And this is what we do when we feel entitled. We have all this language. I know better than you. Right. So I had to reel that in with me and change that with me. So she can show up at her best self, so we can have grace and ease and love.
Man, it's so interesting that you say that. Excuse me, because I had to, and my dad is watching. By the way, I think my dad loves you because he was so eager to comment on the post. And hey, Dad, if you're watching, I believe you are. Me and him had something very similar because I had grown up with this resentment for my dad.
Ooh.
And and the thing about it is it happened even before my parents divorced because, a lot of times when there's a divorce situation, one parent will, try to manipulate the child against the other. But from as long as I can remember, I didn't get along with my dad. What it was, but it was just I just felt so different and so outside of everything else. And as I transitioned into adulthood, I realized that I was holding on to so many things that I blamed him for. Well, I can't do this because my dad did this. And then it switched to my mom. It's well, I can't do this because my mom was working 3 jobs and I was, it was a constant of putting the responsibility on other people. And I think we do that a lot. It's easy for us to digest. I can't do this because someone else did or didn't do something to me. And so I realized about 6 years ago, maybe seven now, I don't even remember, to accept the apology that I'm never going to get.
Oh,
And that,
that's good.
and that in itself healed my relationship with my dad. And I spent so many years seeking something that I'm never going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, a huge shift happened. We're closer than I honestly feel like I think there's definitely a transition that happens into adulthood with our parents, but I don't feel I've ever been as close to my dad or my mom as I am today. And that's
I
because I had to forgive them for stuff that was either out of their control, it just what it was, but it was the stuff that it was what it was. And I was seeking this thing, and it was almost like a way to validate the bullshit in my life. Like I
right.
did this, I was raised in a single mother household, and I do this, and I was like, at what point do I take responsibility for my life as it is today?
Key word, responsibility.
Right. Like I'm 34 years old and I'm still triggered by some, and I'm not in any way diminishing anyone's triggers or anything, but this is just my personal journey. It was like this stuff happened when I was 11 years old. And so it's like, at what point do I create a healthy boundary around that situation so that I'm able to live my life fully?
I really love what you're saying. Um, and love you so much, Norman, and your guests. There was, I can relate to that so much, and it reminds me of a woman that I met a couple years ago before I became coach, and she had been single and notoriously being single, especially if you're notoriously being single. There's a lot of resentment and blame on something or someone. And as an adult, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
You have to learn you are holding on to that as if it's your own. Like this woman said to me, I'm effed up because my mother did this to me. And I was like, okay, well, what are you going to do about that? Because now you can't blame your mother and father anymore for the way you're acting and behaving. Because again, your parents or the adult figures loved you the best that they could with the tools that they had.
That
And
part.
now it is your responsibility, and this is something I work with my clients, to nurture that younger part of you. Now, you as an adult have especially now, the resources, coaches, the amount of coaches that are exploding, therapists, books. You have the tools right at your fingertips to
Right.
learn new skills that your parents didn't teach you, so you can learn yourself, so you can cultivate that younger part of you. And then it goes back to the need and want thing, because what happens is if you don't nurture that part of you, you start to attract partners to give you what your parents didn't have, and you're wondering why this is not working, because you're expecting them to give you something that your parents didn't have, and you're unconsciously operating and you're combating, and it's like, no, you two need to go in your corner, look at the shit that you're dealing with within, and heal
Right.
your own stuff, bring your own happiness, learn how to cultivate new skills, new ways of communication to resolve your issues, to come back. It's even in friendships too. The friendships that you're in right now are for a reason. And when I got that, the people in my life are a reflection of me, of how I'm showing up or not showing up, that was huge for me. Like helped change my life. Because again, you cannot blame outside people anymore, especially when you're past 18. You're a responsible adult, and you have to learn. And it's a practice, learning how to be a responsible, healthy, happy and loving adult is a practice.
And I'm so happy that you brought up the idea of this being related to friendships as well. And the reason why that it just really struck a chord with me is in my book, I wrote a page about my best friend and I. It talks about us teaching each other how to friend each other.
Mm-hmm.
It was such I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And this is for my best friend, Jose, is when we met, we immediately knew that we were family. Like from the moment that I just knew, but we're very different. And over the course of our relationship, we have learned and developed the skill to really communicate what we need from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I would liken that into a relationship, although, hello, I'm single. And clearly, there's something that worked in my friendships and not in my relationships, but we learn how to friend each other. And on that page in my book, it talks about teaching your friend how to be your friend. And like, there's sometimes that Jose will call me and he'll say, Norman, I just need you to listen. Like, I don't need advice. I don't need you to step into coach mode. I just need you to hold the phone to your ear and listen. And at the moment that I was a little offended at first, I'm like, you're my best friend. I'm trying to give you advice because I want to see you succeed. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you really care about someone, sometimes that just pours out.
Right.
He told me, he's like, I just need you to listen. That is when we began that exchange of, okay, well, what do I really need from this friendship? Like, how, in this moment, how can I communicate to you what I need? And then receiving what you need, how can I deliver that? Do you know what I'm saying? And so I'm really happy that you brought up the friend thing, because it's not just about in romantic or familiar relationships. It trickles down even into our friendships, business relationships, colleagues, coworkers, all of that.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because I wrote something down. I said, it's a phrase like, we're always training people how to treat us in
Right.
every single relationship. And I know we're, confidently being single, sometimes, and this is a huge, I'm glad we're on this friendship area, because sometimes I would oppose that if you don't feel confident as a single person, I would guarantee you that it has to do with the circle that you are in.
Oh,
It is.
Repeat that one more time.
I said, if you don't feel confident as a single person, a lot of the times it's in the circle of people that you're in, because you haven't recognized that, at least for me, that they actually aren't for you. They aren't seeing that you're winning. They aren't seeing that you're making your goals, because guess what? They aren't achieving their goals. They aren't in. This is what really got me. As I was on my journey of finding love myself, I started to notice that I was the only one who was doing personal growth and development work. And also I noticed that too, every single one of them had troubles in relationship. They could not maintain a relationship. And I was like, why am I in a circle of people who do not know how to maintain a relationship? If my goal is to be in a healthy relationship and I want to get married, I need to learn from people who are fighting for their relationship, who knows how to maintain a relationship, who has skills. I need to learn from them, not these people who go through for relationship after relationship after relationship, because they think it's them. They think it's the other person, when in fact it is them, and they have not done the work. And I was like, when I finally met one of my best friends now, and I just saw how, and I also was noticing how I felt when I was with him. I felt alive. I felt good when I was in his presence. I always felt like he had my best interest. And not only that, he was achieving. He was owning his own house. He was buying another house. He was making double his income. I was like, shit, I want to be more around those kind of people, not somebody who is kind of in their career, or they're like in a career that they don't really love. They're not passionate about it, or they're going through guys and women left and right. That circle is training you how to not be in a healthy relationship, and it affects your confidence because they don't know how to be confident in a relationship. The other people do, and they're going to teach you. So having healthy circles to be confidently single is so vital.
So we have another question. But before we get to that question, I do just want to take a moment and thank everyone that is watching. This is Cocktails and Coaching, and I'm so excited that you joined me, Norman J. Liverpool, the Confident Lifestyle Coach, and the Love and Relationship Coach, Jimmy Allen. We did have a comment that I just realized that I missed over, and so I apologize. So I'm going to post it now. This is from Brian Seavey, and he says, this was when we were talking about when one person is doing personal development. And it says that often happens when someone gets sober. It often takes intense self-work to move beyond addicted thinking. Meanwhile, their partner has often deflected from their own issues and wants to blame the addict, but the partner denies their own toxic thinking. I think that that's a very valid point. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that. So again, we are sitting with love and relationship coach Jimmy Allen. We are talking about the concept of confidently single. So I got a question, and it says, Jimmy, can you put 3 tips to learn to settle into being single?
3 tips to learn to settle being single. So
how do we rest in and settle in the fact that we're single now?
So one of the biggest things, I wrote it down, is one of the things that really helped me so much when I was being single, and it had to do when I first got diagnosed with vitiligo. So you can see my skin. It's like, and I literally deleted all my dating apps. I was just like, nobody's going to want me. I am going to be this monster. And I'm sure a lot of singles, like, even if you gain your COVID weight, nobody's going to want me. I got to lose, yada, yada, yada. And so I got this exercise from another coach that really changed my whole view on myself. And it's a 30-day exercise. And basically, I had to spend every day in the mirror looking at myself. And this is very like a lot of psychologists do this. I do this a lot with my clients. And you're spending a minute to a minute. You're looking into your eyes, and you put your hand over your heart, your right hand over your heart. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm saying to myself, and it's 2 parts. And I go, Jimmy, I love you. Even if you don't mean it, if you say it every day until you believe it, but you want to feel that, because I feel it now, because I'm in a place now that I believe it. And so then the second part is saying one thing that you love about you. And to me, it was physically. So I would say, Jimmy, I love those spots that are around your eyes. You look more unique every day. And I would do that every single day, because then what that does is that is training your brain. You're changing the belief system within yourself. So you become more confident in yourself. I became less covered up. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped trying to cover myself. And I began to make sure that I'm seen, make sure that I'm heard, make sure that I'm not reacting to, if somebody made a comment, I became less defensive. I became more, well, I'm going to educate people what this is, because it's not going anywhere. Now I'm becoming an advocate of myself, my body. Even if I don't have the perfect body, that same mirror exercise can help you with your body, with the thighs that you don't like, because trust me, there is somebody out there who loves your thighs, who loves your flat ass, who loves that. And this is something that my best friend told me, that when I got vitiligo, he was like, okay, great. Guess what? Now you can wean out the people who don't like that. And you can only attract the people who love all of that about you. Now you can start owning that. You don't want the people who don't like your big thighs. You don't want the people who don't like you with glasses. Own the fact that you wear glasses. Own the fact that you're brown or with vitiligo or have rosacea or have whatever skin or whatever you're dealing with your body, or you know what I'm saying, or where you at in your life. Own that. Everybody's a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? Also, another thing too, like I said earlier, like what really also helps shift me as a single person is that start making a list of things that you want from another person. This really helped me.
Okay.
So one of the things that you start making the list of the things, like I want somebody who's confident. So we're talking about confidence. I want somebody who's ambitious. I want somebody who's in shape. I want somebody who's good with money. Now,
Right.
you need to evaluate that list. Where am I weak on that list? Do I bring that to the table? Like if you want somebody who's confident and you're not confident, then honey, you have to learn how to be confident. If you want somebody who's in shape, who has a great body, and you can't even breathe going up the stairs, it is time to get to the gym. You have to start being what you want to attract.
And on that note, honey, really end because I mean that is so true. And wow, Jimmy, for those of you who are just joining us, I want to just put this back up here. Make sure you connect with Jimmy on all platforms at Jimmy Allen. He is the love and relationship coach, and he helps ambitious people get it together so that we can have the confidence and have the self love to move into that relationship that we ultimately want.
And I'll give one last tip too with that being a person that, because I was a person who was like, well, I want a man who's good with their family, and I couldn't even be on the phone 5 minutes with my mother. I
Right.
was like, how in the hell I'm going to be with somebody who's a family person? My own relationship to my family is just a mess. I
Right.
need to go work on my relationship with my family. And I'm happy to say, like, we have really good relationships now. It was some work, but I'm much happier with those relationships.
Thank you, Charles. Amazing advice from both of you. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Tuning in. So did you have some questions or points that you want to hit? Because I'm getting some stuff coming through my email, but I want to make sure that we touch on any notes or things that you have.
Yeah, when you're out there, if you're going into your relationships with your friends and family and yada yada yada, you want to start implementing these things and transforming any relationship. There's one thing I always say to my clients when they're trying to, even with the guy who was saying, who brought up, is my partner doesn't value personal growth, and you want to have that conversation with them. I always say this: you want to bring everything and nothing to the conversation, and what that means is you're bringing all of yourself to the conversation because this is important to you, and you always want to evaluate where are you coming from when you're having this, or create how you want to be in that relationship with this person. Like, so, for instance, like I said, I want to create grace and ease and love with my family. I have to always check that I'm coming from that place before I have the conversation. And the everything and nothing, like I'm bringing all of my grace and ease into that conversation, and I'm bringing none of my past judgments. I'm bringing none of that past conversation. I'm not bringing that hurt from yesterday, that text message that made me mad. I'm checking my emotions before I get on this call. I'm not bringing my mess and their mess to the conversation.
Right.
I'm bringing everything and nothing so I can have my intentions is to create a loving, respectful conversation between the person that I love. And yeah, I wanted to give that.
That is such a beautiful bring everything and nothing.
Yeah.
And what triggered in my mind is the nothing part is about being able to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And I never, I that is such a bring everything, bring all of you, but nothing so that you can get something out of it. Wow. Okay, y'all, mic drop. This is what sales and coaching. And again, we are sitting with Jimmy Allen, who is the love and relationship coach, and he teaches these people to get it together, to do the work so that they can attract the things that they want for their lives. And so we're so happy that he's here with us. So, Jimmy, we got a
Yes.
question. Y'all don't have no questions for me?
Bring it on.
So, Jimmy, this is from, hold on, from Rebecca. Let me see, where is she at?
Hey, how you doing, Rebecca?
My phone is trying to die, but no, we rebuke that. Okay, this is Rebecca from Los Angeles. And she says, how do you know that you're ready to be in a relationship? And I would push that even further to say, when do you know that you have done the work on you to now be ready for a relationship?
So when do you know when you're ready for a relationship? Well, it's a really great question. One of the things I I would say it's a self test, right? So one, especially with like particular clients when they're like, I need to work on myself, I need to work on myself. One of the biggest things that we work on is, are you complete with the relationships that from the past? Because you don't want to bring all that to the
Ooh,
past. And have I forgiven and have I forgiven every person that I need to forgive, especially romantically? And have I made amends to myself wholeheartedly and truly? And if I can truly say, yes, I have, then I know I'm ready to go on because I know that I'm not bringing none of this stuff to this new person. Because I don't want to send people out into the world bringing their old shit to the next relationship. That's not what we're doing.
right, right, right.
So it's like having that self, like, have I done the work? Have I completed? Have I said all the things? Even if with even, and I said this to a recent a friend of mine, like, it was based on his coaching business. He felt like he couldn't go all in because he had hurt somebody in the past. It had nothing to do with coaching, but that fear of hurting someone again, that he was going to take that into coaching. He was going to mess that person up. And this was like it was in high school or something like that. I said, well, you can still have a forgiveness conversation. There's an exercise that I teach a lot of clients. You bring them into a meditation. You have this sort of one-on-one forgiveness conversations, and you can complete that and release that conversation. So I do a lot of those things to complete these unfinished business type, what is it called? Soul ties with other people and other things, because that can stop people and hinder people, from going to a relationship. And like with trust, a lot of people have trust issues. You have to like reevaluate again.
Right.
Can I still trust? Like, where does that still show up in my life? Like, I had a woman, she didn't hire me, but I said to her, I said, you want a relationship, but you don't trust. Like, she didn't even trust people to come in her house. She had to hide everything. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, there's something unresolved with you, and you're walking around like this is okay to be this way.
Right, right, right.
And you have to look at what is hindering me from making the move to go back on a dating, making the move to go back to on a dating app, because sometimes we create all these excuses, like, well, there again, going back to language, there's no good men out there. There's no good women out there. Okay, well, if that's your deep belief, then that's how every single person is showing up. Because your neural pathways, your brain receptors, you're programming yourself to
Right.
look for the people who aren't trustworthy, who aren't confident, who are going to cheat on you until you resolve that within you and change the energy within you. I mean,
Right.
you know this as a coach with confidence until you evolve that part of you, it's always going to be there. So it's like looking at, okay, like going back to the things I want. Where am I still weak? How do I work on that? Where else that shows up in my life? Okay,
Right.
now that I'm working on that, then you start, it's like with confidence, it's a practice. And the people in your life are the practice to work on every single thing that you are calling in. Oh, hey, dad, in your life. So evaluate your confidence in your relationships, how you're showing up, and there's still some residual stuff, then it's like it's really being brutally honest with oneself
Self.
and saying, okay, I need to work on this and be okay with that. And also, I say, share it with a friend because now you're accountable. Hey, I want to date again, but I'm having some trust issues or confidence issues. I want you to hold me accountable for getting myself out there by this date. Trust a real good friend, not a negative friend, a friend who you trust, and they're holding you accountable. You said, hey, you said you were going to work on this thing to get yourself back out there. Have you did your profile? Have you changed your pictures? Have you did this X, Y, and Z? Like have that accountability partner, and that's also helping you build trust. You're building your vulnerability
Right.
muscles with that person. Like this is how it works with the person. You can't listen. You can't be in your house sitting here thinking about it. Your transformation is through other people. You have to put it to work. It's not something you think about. Confidence is practicing in action. It's action, action, action.
And and that's what I work with my clients on is understanding that confidence is like a muscle.
Yes.
It's something that we have to work out. And what's really interesting is, my a lot of clients when they come to me, they're like, "Well, I'm just waiting to build the confidence." But if you don't have to build it, you have to do it, and as you do it, the confidence will build. The same thing for me. When I started working out, or anyone that starts working out, you don't go just lifting the heaviest weight, but you also don't just sit there waiting for the strength to lift the heaviest weight. You'll start, hey, I'll be proud to say I started with some 10s. Okay, let me work these 10s out. Then I graduated some 20s. Okay, and so you have to work that muscle in order to get there. It's not just going to, like you said, you're not going to think it and then confidence just drops in your lap.
Right.
You've got to actively do the work. And one of the things that I tell my clients is we got to use the 3 I's. We've got to do it intentionally, we got to do it immediately, and we've got to do
Mm-hmm.
it perfectly. Because at the moment we're like, oh no, we're gonna wait, or it's not ready, or that is the easiest way to never
It's
get it done.
it's self-sabotaging talk. Like I love that intentionally, immediately. I can't remember the third one, but right now, it's so imperative that you take action now. Otherwise, because of your brain, the reptilian part of your brain wants to keep you safe. So your brain will start to try to convince you this is not the right time. This is too much. This is too much work. This is too hard.
Right,
This is so we
right.
talk ourselves out of the things that we really want, that lights us up. And this sort of makes me think of, I'm going to butcher this quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, but he says, I'm going to place a word with confidence. He goes, confidence is basically taking one step at a time without seeing the whole staircase. Like it's literally taking one step at a time, trusting that what I want is on the other side of that. It's literally taking one small step at a time.
Wow. You know what? I say this every time, but we got to do a part two.
We can.
I say that all the time, but I just feel like there's so much to unpack here. And especially in the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm.
So because I mean, we all bring things into relationship, but in my experience as a gay person, as a person of color, we bring some additional stuff into the relationship. And so, oh wait, what it says for Charles says anything worth having requires some hard work. Period.
Period.
Now, but I'm not. We need to have a part two because I agree with that, and I also don't agree with that. And we'll have to talk about that.
And I love you said that, because if you believe it's hard work, then it's hard work. It can be
Right.
easy as well. It's how you think of it.
Ease.
Right.
And that was one of the challenges that I had in a relationship, because I'm just like, yeah, I get it that when you're dealing with two people, there's a compromise, there's a level of understanding and a level of give and take, but I don't want nothing hard.
Right.
And that's just where I'm at today. Now, if you had caught me 10 years ago, I thought that was cute, to fight for your relationship and struggle. Like and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, Charles, but I just want to clarify my position is I don't want anything hard. Am I willing to work for it? Am I willing to fight for it? Oh, wait, hold on. Charles came back. He said, good point.
Good point. But you're making a good point.
At 34 years old, I don't want nothing hard. I want one that can come in and not complete my life, but complement my life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to feel like I'm fighting for your attention, fighting for your affection,
yes,
for sex. Like, let's just be real. Like I said, time is out for bad relationships and shitty sex. And just that is like the motto that I've lived in. And I'm not gearing that towards anyone that I've been with. Where I'm at today, that's just what it is. So I'm not dealing with the fighting stuff. I'm not dealing with the you gotta ride or die. I'm not doing all that. Like, if we're gonna be together, we can be together, and it's gonna be a bomb-ass relationship with good sex. And if it's not that, then that's okay. I'm gonna be right up in here by myself.
Right.
And I feel like it took me to be fully confident in myself to do that. And yeah, Dad, you're right. My dad just commented. Normally, I wouldn't say it's my dad. We have the same name, so I mean, there's no way to hide that. He said that depends on both people's mindsets, and that's true. That's what we were talking about earlier. As we were talking about personal development, both people have to want that, and at the moment they don't, I'm out.
Right, but most people, you have the opportunity to create it. Most people aren't creating their relationship together. They're not sitting down with their partners. What do we want to create together? Because most people are saying, well, this is how relationships supposed to be. Relationships supposed to be hard. Like, why do you subscribe to that? Why do you believe that to be true? It does not have to be true. Again, it goes back to the language that you two are creating with each other. The more you keep saying that and you believe that, and most of us, there's a study said that we are operating 95% in our unconscious brain. That means majority of the things what we're doing in relationship is based off of something that you agreed to as a child, in college, during friends, or whatever. Now your brain that you don't know why you're combating with each other into that relationship. That's why that's why coaches are so good and handy, and therapists. Like, make coaching and therapy normal. Just normalize that. But I agree with you. I don't want anything hard. I want a relationship with ease, grace, bomb ass sex. Even I would even change it with you and said, even if it's not that, you can get to sit down. Let's create this together so it can be that.
Right. And that's the thing is I no longer subscribe to the notion that relationships are hard. You know, even with my last relationship, it was like, well, you didn't fight. No, I didn't. Because like, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but at some point you get to a point where I'm just not going to fight. If it's not what it is, it's not what it is. And
Right.
I think that comes with a certain level of confidence to be able to say, this is not serving me. This is not the right space for me.
Yes.
And I need to create the right space for me. You're
Right.
not a bad person. I'm not a bad person, but this together, baby, is not the tea. And I was always so nervous about that confrontation or about having as we were talking about, having that difficult discussion. But what I have realized is my personal state of being is going to be my priority.
Right.
Like you mentioned earlier, I don't need you. I want you. And when we make that distinction, excuse
Mm.
me, operate differently in relationships. I don't need you to respond to my text messages in 2 seconds or to be upset if I'm busy because I'm out here working. Like, I don't need any of that. Do I want your attention and affection? Yeah, but it's got to be the right situation. And I feel that if we're not confidently single, meaning that we embrace and lean into our singleness and lean into our oneness with self, we're going to continue to recycle the same situations. We're all going to have these relationships that don't last long. We're going to have these hot and heavy relationships that are just right in the beginning and then they fizzle out because we haven't done the work on ourselves.
Right. And I love what you're saying. And I wrote down clarity is confidence. When you're clear about what you want and need in a relationship, your confidence goes up the roof because you stop settling for what doesn't fit into that. And you can ask for what you want and you can present it to the person. This is what I need from you. You can either meet that or not. And if you can't, I thank you very much. It was nice to meet you. I don't need to be nasty. We don't need to be nasty with each other, but this is not going to work. You
Right.
know, and I was saying to you, when you were speaking, about the relationships. It was hard. My last relationship, he was upset that the relationship was too easy. He was like, "This can't be right. Why is it so easy?" And I was like, "Are we really having this conversation? Like, why is?" I said, "Do you want it to be hard?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Well, my intention is my next relationship is to create fun, ease, and joy into a relationship. I don't want to be in a difficult relationship.
Mm-mm.
I want to be fun, lively. I want to be easy. I want to be the example of the work that I've been doing. If I could believe that it's gonna be easy, then I'm gonna bring that." And he didn't understand, like he couldn't compute, like he didn't
Right.
trust it because he had trust issues.
Right, right, right.
So, and even me saying that intention, his trust issues was more important than having light, fun, ease. So we had to break up. Like, I know, great person, no hard feelings, still communicate. But my intention is to create a loving, easy environment, badass sex, great conversation. That's my intention in love with friends too. Like, my intention is to create a very powerful, uplifting, high achieving friends and be that, bomb ass support system. So you can be your best self. That's what I'm bringing to the table.
I know that's right. And you know what's crazy? And there's a saying is when you know what you bring to the table, you're not scared to eat alone. And I think that is the embodiment of confidence. When I and sometimes we actually bring the table. And I'm saying like I know when I come into a situation, I bring the table, the place settings, like I bring it. And like you said, it should be light, fun, joyous. It should not be all of that thing. But like you were talking about with that person, is we indoctrinate ourselves that it should be challenging because
Mm-hmm.
we saw our parents have a challenging relationship, or all we've had is challenging relationships. And we bring that and we attract that. And then we wonder, we're like, damn, why am I like, why is it like this? And if
Mm-hmm.
we are attracting that with our language, talking about I need you, I can't live without you, all you complete me, I'm nothing without you. Like all of these things are really just recreating the thing that we say we do that we say.
I would recommend a book called by Whoopi Goldberg. Now, it's pretty funny, but it's called if you can if your person said you complete me, run. And so she breaks down all this language that we use around that fools us to believe into this sort of fairy tale, like how movies and songs and this is how love should be. And she's like, no, like love ain't like that in the movies. Like that's stuff you got to go through to make that relationship look like that. They don't
Right.
show you that part. Love ain't like that in the movies. So, even with that, like looking at the songs and the movies and the relationships, that why do you believe what you believe? And challenge those beliefs, because your belief system is keeping you where you are, single, and not being confident. It's all, this is what I do, where we really dissect those behavioral patterns that keep you single, unconfident, and alone.
Mm-mm. Well, listen, Jimmy. So I feel like, in just conversation with you, I forget we're live because I just feel like you are giving me what I need, and so I just want to for being here today. For those of you that are just tuning in, we're going to have the replay available. I'm sitting with the love and relationship coach, Jimmy Allen, who works with ambitious people to work through their stuff to really attract the relationships and things that they want in their lives. And so I invite you to connect with him on all platforms at Jimmy Allen. He's on every platform. If you put that in there, you'll find him. And as we get ready to close down, Jimmy, what is your parting word of advice for that single person out there who is just like, I want to achieve that? What Jimmy is talking about, I want that. What is your advice to that person? I'm gonna let you have the screen.
Well, what's there for me is a quote by Marianne Williamson called "A Return to Love," and it says that love is there to shine the light on the things that we don't like about ourselves, so that we can deal with it, heal from it, so we can expand more in love. So basically, that's my job as a coach, to shine a light on the things that are blocking you from having that juicy relationship, so you can expand and love in every single relationship in your life. I can't, you're muted.
Thank you. Again, this is Jimmy Allen. He is a love and relationship coach. You can connect with Jimmy on all platforms at Jimmy Allen. Jimmy, I want to thank you so much for being here with us this
Thank you.
afternoon. Again, you already know who it is, but in case I give you a slight reminder, darling, it's your friend, your good Judy, your next door neighbor, your niece, your nephew, your cousin, your great auntie, your uncle, and now an author. And don't forget to sign
Yes.
book.overthetopliving.com on the pre-sale list. The book will be officially launched here in Las Vegas on April 11th. So if you're in the Las Vegas area, I definitely invite you to come and get your signed copy of Over the Top Living, Walking in Next Level Confidence Every Damn Day.
Hell yeah.
Norman J. Liverpool IV, and we will see you next week for another edition of Coaching and Cocktails. Don't forget, right now, open your phone and follow at Jimmy Allen on all platforms. Did you see what he brought to the table tonight? I want you to be able to connect with him. Oh, Big Norm says, great show, guys. Thanks so much, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks
And
for
listen,
Go
I want to
ahead.
say, if you really want to connect, like just send me a DM and I would love to create a connection call, a non-pressure call to see like what can we create together and get you, out there confidently dating.
I love it. So again, go to @JimmyAllen on all platforms. He just invited you into his DMs.
DMs.
Get into the DMs. Get into the DMs. I know I'm going to be in the DMs. Our amazing special guest, Jimmy Allen, who is a love and relationship coach. I want to thank you. And on behalf of Over the Top Living, we bid you adieu. And remember, like I tell y'all all the time, babies, you're the shit. Get up and act like it.